as Syrian, we are like garden of flowers. We need to cooperate to support our own people.
This is Phoenix Stories, where we look at sustainable development in post-conflict zones. I'm Professor Martin Spinelli at the University of Sussex, and on this episode of Phoenix Stories, I'm speaking with Osama Alkhalaf, an agronomist and humanitarian worker in northwest Syria for nearly 10 years. Osama, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Can you please start by telling us a little bit about the humanitarian work and research you have been doing in northwest Syria in recent years?
So I worked at the beginning as a volunteer in northern Aleppo to support the internal displacement people that coming from the rural areas in all of Syria. So I started to work as a volunteer, and after that I moved to work in my major in food security and livelihood program. I have 10 years experience in humanitarian work. I worked with many organization, international organization and local organization in northern Syria. And from 2012, I relocated also to Turkey to start work in the northwest Syria response.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the nature of the internal displacement in Syria? Where are most of the people from? Where have they ended up? Tell us a little bit about that phenomenon.
For the northwest Syria, it's the area that contains about 4.5 million of internal displacement people, which is escaped from the clashes and airstrike in the Syria from eastern Aleppo and rural Damascus and everywhere in the rural area in Idlib and Hama. So they collected in these 1,400 camps in northwest Syria. About 1.8 million of the IDPs were living and are living now in the camps now.
So, can you tell me briefly, in just one sentence, how do you describe the goal of the work that you are doing in northwest Syria?
Mainly, we are focusing as a food security and livelihood program. We are focusing on the emergency response for the people who displaced from their homes to the urgent needs at the beginning, and after that, we focus on the in the stable area on the development or on the livelihood to support the people on the individual level, like to support them with income generating activities. And to rehabilitate the main food security related infrastructure in the area. As emergency response, we focus on the hot meal at the beginning, food basket, and free bread distribution, subsidized bread. And after that, we have also RTEs, ready to eat rations to the people. Also, there is another program which is the cash voucher assistance.
Just in terms of emergency response, what have been some of the main obstacles to achieving that humanitarian food relief that you have faced? What are some of the main obstacles to that emergency response?
Main obstacles is the security situation. We are working on the airstrike and clashes in this area, and also there is no capacity to respond to the big crisis like the airstrike or for the natural disaster, and to face also climate change and drought at the same time. Also, we have faced also COVID-19 in this area with this poor hygiene in the camps and lack of access for the food.
So I'd like you to tell me a story of a particular person or family that you might have encountered who has benefited from the work that you've been doing.
There is one of our farmers supported by one of our projects in northwest Syria, Mahmud al-Badr, in the village of rural Aleppo. This support has changed his life and his family to leave the dependency on the food assistance and cultivate their own lands. They didn't have this capacity or cost to invest their lands, agricultural lands. They said we really received a good support from the humanitarian organizations to restore our productive assets, to meet our basic needs, to send our children to the schools. Also, I have a good story for the successful story for the community level. We have rehabilitated one of the silos site for storing wheat in northwest Syria to store about 12,000 ton of wheat. And we install one mill for milling wheat with capacity of 50 metric ton per day. And we provide the local council with bread production line or bakery to produce the bread for the local community and providing job opportunity for more than 20 family in this area.
So I guess Osama, the question is you have these interventions, they help people with emergency, immediate, urgent needs. How do we move from that emergency response into something that is more sustainable, that doesn't require more and more or continuous humanitarian aid input or NGO input?
On the short-term response, we focus on the urgent needs or to provide the essential services for the community to encourage the people who are living in the camp to come back to their homes. But now also we are facing that there is a lot of families came back to their homes and they found that there is no homes and they forced to stay in these camps. So we need to work on the essential services or the main infrastructure to provide this bread, water, and electricity to encourage them to come back to their homes. In the long term response, we can focus on the economic recovery, creating job opportunities for people, restoring productive assets, and emphasizing the initiatives for women and youth in entrepreneurship in agriculture and value chains, industry, and market based businesses.
I'm curious whether we're moving out of a phase where we're focusing primarily on urgent needs and thinking more long term, or at the moment in Syria, is it still really an issue of addressing those emergency, immediate, urgent needs?
We still have these urgent needs for the people who are living in the camp. As I said before, that there is a lot of families who are living in the camp and they don't have homes to come back. And there is also an issue with the mine action in the front lines between parties. We need to focus on this, and these people they cannot start their work and leave the dependency on the humanitarian work. We need to respond to them with the urgent needs, and at the same time we need to work on their recovery, how to provide the shelter and essential services.
Some of the main focus of this podcast is exchanging knowledge about sustainability, sustainable development. And I'm curious, what are the main challenges now for achieving sustainability in Syria? And what does sustainability mean for the beneficiaries of the projects you're involved with?
The environment aspects, we can depend on the adopting climate smart agriculture practices, and for the economic we can depend on building sustainable value chains to local products like wheat and vegetables. For the social, ensuring that woman is very crucial, and the displaced person, marginalized group benefit equally from our intervention. For the beneficiary, we can define this sustainability when the people can depend on their own income generating and leave the humanitarian aids or external aids to focus on the local production and to get this income to meet their basic needs.
Do the people that you're working with struggling with the day-to-day realities of life on the ground in northwest Syria ever question or push back against that environmental pillar of sustainability? Is there ever a thinking, well, I'm just trying to survive, I need to survive, I can't really worry about climate smart agriculture right now? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Climate smart agriculture practices is already applied by the farmers in northwest Syria, but when they don't have found these resources, they depend on the other resources to adapt with this climate change or drought. So the farmers started to cultivate a new crops or a new varieties to face this drought and the climate change.
To what extent is the future of the environment and what I might call ecological issues, to what extent are they in the minds of people working on the ground in northwest Syria?
Now there's no commitment from the people to protect the environment, but there is a lot of the awareness session from the organization, from the local authorities there to aware the people all spread this knowledge about the environment and about the waterborne disease from the gray water.
You mentioned when talking about the social pillar of sustainability, the importance of involving women in the process. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Always in our planning focus on the women empowerment initiative to involve them in the activities like food processing and short-term opportunities in the olive harvesting, and also to focus on the women leadership on the community level by supporting the cooperative.
What advice would you have for other NGOs or other entities who are entering Syria now, hoping to have similar positive changes occur that you have seen and you have been involved with? What advice might you share to a new actor in the region?
Syria has been one of the most complex and largest humanitarian response over 13 years. This needs the organization to change their mentality on the previous approach and focus on building capacities for the local community and current government in developing a response framework and policies to align with the current situation and needs. So a comprehensive humanitarian needs assessment should be conducted now, and the UN agencies, I believe, are currently working in the humanitarian needs overview. It's crucial also to work as a unified team to focus on vital projects like integration approach and synergic consortium approach for the organization to focus on the big needs like to rehabilitate a big infrastructure, also to focus on the economic recovery at the same time.
I just want to pick up on that economic thread that you mentioned, that third pillar of sustainability. So, what do you think is needed right now to empower people to stand on their own land, and not rely on aid? What steps should we, as an international community and as a community of humanitarian aid and NGO workers, be taking to achieve that economic pillar of sustainability?
In terms of food security and livelihood, I can talk about this, like to provide farmers with the interest-free agriculture loans in collaboration with Ministry of Agriculture now to increase agriculture production and food supply and help farmers to restore their productive assets and enhance their resilience. At the same time, we can focus on the rehabilitating the damaged farms, the irrigation canals to increase the agriculture production, and now also we can focus on the rehabilitating agriculture scientific research stations or centers. We can talk about the supporting water harvesting projects and restore artificial dams, establishing local collection dams in specific areas.
I'm aware that only a few weeks ago, we had a dramatic change in Syria. The Assad regime fell. We are at something of a historical turning point in Syria. So I'm wondering what you think we should be keeping in mind to make this transition the most positive it can be.
We have a lot of the natural and the human resources to be activated to support Syria. Now we focus on the human resources and to also focus on the natural resources. Syria has a lot of the agriculture lands.
So the last question I have is, what is the main message you would like to get across? Or do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us?
We need to change our mentality for us, for the Syrians, and for all the people who are willing to support Syrian to recover in the upcoming years. We need to cooperate to support our own people to recover, to focus on the peace building in the all of Syria. As Syrian, we are like garden of flowers. We need to focus, as I said, on the consortium to work as a team, not individuals, to support those people.
This is Phoenix Stories. On this episode, I've been speaking with agronomist Osama Alkhalaf. He's also a humanitarian worker in northwest Syria. We've had financial support from the business school at the University of Sussex and technical support from the School of Media, Arts and Humanities. Our podcasting consultants were Resilience Limited. The producer is Ruth Holroyd and the executive producer is Mirella Barbu. I'm Martin Spinelli. Thanks very much for listening, and if you work in the humanitarian or AIDS sectors, please know that your work is appreciated.